Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to call this meeting of the Hamilton Climate Change Advisory Committee to order. Just wanted to let everyone know that this meeting is being shared with members of the public and is webcast live by the City of Hamilton. And also, for the folks in the room, if you haven't yet turned off your phones and stuff, if you can put them to silent, that would be great. Thank you. And then for folks who are on the line, if I could just ask you to make sure to raise your hand in the WebEx function, just to so that we know that you want to speak, and we'll keep a note on that. If we are not just in case, because sometimes it's hard to see, usually it's the hands that come up, but if we are not noticing your hand up, if you could just unmute and let us know, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm just going to commence the roll call, and then if folks can just let us know if you're here, that would be great. Councillor Craig Cassar. Hi.
I'm here, Gabby.
Thanks. Councillor Alex Wilson. Councillor Cameron Crocht.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jeff Hardy. I don't think so. Ian. Boris?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Ian. Aditya Kitan. Bayod Akomolafe. Frank Lenazardi. Luduzzi, sorry, Lenarduzzi. Gabby Kullapush is here. Mary Ellen Scranton. Hi, thank you. Mary Luz. I think she's not here, right? Okay. Miles Sargent. No, I don't think he's here either. Oh, yes, where is? Okay. Where? Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, thank you. Lucia. Thank you. Shelley.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Tran Nguyen. Nope. Matthew Tuddy. Nope. Jillian Henry. Nope. Oh, is he? Okay, thanks. Sorry about that, Matthew. Jesse's not here. Juliana is not here either, right? Juliana? Okay. Adan? Nope, Dan's not here. Jordan Boyer? Nope. Jen Matthews? Don't think so. Nope. Zach?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, thanks, Zach. Sue?
Hello.
Hey, Sue. Thank you. Eladia Smoke? And Tristan McLaurin? No. Okay. So if I could just ask staff who are present to please introduce themselves. Maybe we'll start with you, Beatrice.
Hello. Yes. Hi, I'm Beatrice Ikoko, and I'm the Office of Climate Change Initiatives.
Hi, Linda Lukasik with the Office of Climate Change Initiatives.
Trevor?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Trevor Imhoff, Senior Project Manager in the Office of Climate Change Initiatives.
Catherine?
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine Winkleman, Senior Project Manager in the Office of Climate Change Initiatives.
Is there anyone I missed? No? Okay. All right, excellent. Thanks, everyone. So I'll just read the Hamilton land acknowledgements right now. The City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which is an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase, 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. And today, the City of Toronto is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our role as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. So we'll move on to number 3 on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda from any of the members? No? All right. If that is the case, sorry, can I have a mover and a seconder for approval of the agenda. So Sue? And a seconder? Thank you. Okay. Sorry, where did we get the seconder? Sorry, I just missed out. I just didn't write it down. Did we get a seconder? Can you just remind me who this is? Are you going to write it down? Who seconded or firsted? I just think it was online, right? The hand went down before I wrote it down. That's what I'm asking.
That's Sue and Shelley.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All in favor of the agenda? Okay. Excellent. Perfect. And then anyone opposed to the agenda, approval of the agenda? No. I will assume that's nobody then, right? Okay. All right, so that one's taken care of. Then we are moving on to the declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from any of the committee members to disclose? I think, Shelley, you still have your hand up. No? All right. So there's noted that there's no conflict of interest or declarations of interest. We'll move on then. And then the approval of the minutes, the next agenda item is the approval of the minutes of the December 17th, 2024 meeting. So just if there's any comments on the minutes of December 17th. Nope, I don't see anyone stating any kind of edits or changes needed to the minutes. If that's the case, if we can move to have a mover and a seconder for approval of the December 17th minutes. Sue? And seconder? Thank you, Frank. And all in favor of approving the minutes of the December 17th, 2024 meeting? All right. Do we have anyone opposed to the approval of the December 17th, 2024 meetings? Notes? Does not appear so. So that has been carried. We do not have any delegations for this meeting, so we'll move right on to agenda item number 7, which is the items for information. And the first part of that on the agenda is a presentation by Jessica Gale from Green Ventures on the stormwater rebate program. So Jessica, I think you're online, is that correct?
Correct.
Thanks. If you could just share your screen and then you could take away the presentation, that would be great. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Beatrice will handle your slides for you, Shelley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, Jessica. Beatrice will handle the slides.
Okay, perfect. That's good. I'm not used to this platform, so thank you very much. Thank you for having me tonight to speak about this program that we are launching with Green Venture. The Rain Ready Hamilton program is going to be administered by Green Venture and funded by the City of Hamilton. Currently, we are still in development with the City of Hamilton about this program. So some of the details are still emerging, but we have some of the basic outline to share with everyone about this program for residential homeowners. So Beatrice, if you could do the next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit about our organization. Green Venture has been operating in Hamilton for over 30 years. We are an environmental not-for-profit focused on education and outreach. And so our mission is to help Hamilton residents take collective and individual actions to preserve natural environment, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and to build a resilient community when it comes to climate change. Next slide, please. Thank you. So something special that we've done for over 10 years now is that we have a focus on green infrastructure programming. So for a number of years, we have been doing DPAVE projects, so grant-funded projects where in spaces like the gardens we've done along Barton, we tear up pavement, we work with a landscape architect, and we install rain gardens and other permeable paving, those sorts of features. We also, for a number of years, ran a rebate program for residential homeowners in order to help them put in LID, low impact development features into their yards and gardens. Next slide, please. So this is just our team that is going to be working on the Rain Ready program. Myself as the program lead, Liz Enriquez and Alexia de la Putada. Next slide, please. And the new program is focused on two different aspects. So doing education and outreach. So focused mainly on homeowners, but also industry professionals, and just trying to do general public awareness around stormwater issues to the public at large. And the Rain Ready rebate is the core of this new program, which is a reimbursement for installation of approved low impact development projects. Next slide, please. So this program is looking to address some bigger issues that we're facing in the city of Hamilton. So as many people in this room already know, that the historical way that we've been managing stormwater is to try to move water as fast away from our residential properties as possible. And that this has had a huge impact on our combined sewer systems. And during extreme storm events that we experience more often now due to climate change, this infrastructure becomes overwhelmed, leading to overflow events which affect water quality in the city. Next slide, please. And so just in case, I just wanted to include this definition of low impact development and what that is. So it's an approach to land development that mimics natural movement of water to manage stormwater close to where it falls. So managing it on the properties it falls on instead of moving it off property. And the focus of these techniques and features, landscape features, is to filter, infiltrate, store, evaporate, and detain rainwater and runoffs. And in particular, the type of LID that we are trying to encourage and support people to do is particularly to infiltrate and filter water. Next slide, please. So some of the examples of low impact development that we have encouraged people to install with our previous program and will continue to support in the new Rain Ready program is things like rain gardens, rainwater collection and storage systems, so things like rain barrels, cisterns, and the like, bioswales and dry rock swales, soak-away pits, infiltration trenches, grass swales, but also, also non-living systems like perforated pipe systems, permeable paving, and even green roofs. Next slide, please. So just in case people are not familiar with these types of features, I just wanted to share some images. So on the left is a really beautiful example of a bioswale full of different types of perennials and shrubs and grasses. The middle example is actually a project completed by one of our former participants in our grant-funded rebate program. This is a rain garden. And then the right hand shows that rainwater collection systems can come in kind of all shapes and sizes, including DIY. And And so we're encouraging, people, if they want to and they feel that they are able, they can do some of this work themselves. But also we are supporting them to connect with and work with experienced contractors. Next slide. And again, the example on the left is considered a dry swale with some vegetation planted along the edges. The middle example is actually from a property I visited in Burlington, an excellent permeable paving driveway. And the example on the right is an example of a residential green roof, not in Hamilton, but out near Caledon that I toured also. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits to homeowners and property owners? So this project has this program has the potential to help people with their stormwater management, solving some of the flooding issues they might be experiencing on their properties, but it also can have a greater neighborhood effect, reducing localized flooding. Also, there's these wonderful benefits of yard beautification, so increasing the complexity and the diversity of the types of plantings we see in the city. Biodiversity, so because this rebate supports only native plantings, it is a good potential habitat for pollinators. And lastly, it can help reduce overall water consumption, especially if all of the features mentioned could deliver rainwater passively in storm events to irrigate, but also if people add in a rain barrel, they have water there to water their gardens and for other uses. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are the benefits for this program for the wider city? Again, we're hoping that if there is uptake on a wider level and in concert with some of the other LID work that's done on a municipal level, that we can see a reduced localized flooding events, and that the stormwater is now being managed more where it falls on a lot by lot basis, instead of entering as much of it entering the combined sewer system. And so hopefully that will also reduce peak flow events. So there will most likely always be some sort of runoff still with these features, but a lot less is entering the sewer system, and it's entering it over a greater time span. And hopefully the water that is then entering the combined sewer is also is cleaner because it's gone through filtration, passing through soil and roots and so forth. Next slide, please. Okay, so who can apply? So this program is unique in that any residential property owner in the city of Hamilton can apply. That includes tenants that can apply with permission, written permission from the landlord. And this is for any residential property with 6 or fewer units. Properties that are have more units than that go through different another stream of credits. And as a part of this, we're hoping to prioritize areas that of properties that are on the combined sewer system, and also areas of the city with high impermeable surface areas. And one of the things I wanted to highlight in this is that hopefully with some of these priorities and that we can prioritize increasing green space in areas of the city with low green space density. And and that the ability for people to apply with permission from their landlords also opens it up to just not people who own the properties. Landlords also could potentially apply. And part of what we're going to be preparing is we'll have documents for people to use to gain that permission, but also to even pitch it to their landlord as a project they can do. Next slide, please. Okay, so the steps of someone wanting to receive a rebate would be, we do have education requirements in order to apply to the rebate. There are going to be a number of options. There is going to be a webinar series in February and March that people can attend live or receive a recording that gives them the basics of how to install and or manage a project like this. We also have a series of events called Ask the Expert, which are kind of drop-in open houses where they can speak to industry professionals and our staff about how, with their questions, with their projects. And then there's a few other events that we're still kind of in the mix, but one of the things I wanted to highlight was one of the Ask the Expert panels is actually occurring this Saturday at CD Saturday at Central Library. And so next with the program, we require that they attend at least one of these sessions so they have an understanding of what this type of project entails. They can then apply online, fairly simple application process, but one that takes into the details that are necessary so these projects are correctly sized and built. And then their application is reviewed by Green Ventures staff. Next slide, please. And so a unique part of this program is something we've done previously and is actually other municipalities and municipal and not-for-profit partnerships do this is having a coaching visit or a consultation. So after applicants are pre-approved, we will set up an appointment to either meet with them virtually or in person at their property to review their application and make sure that there's no red flags to make sure they feel confident and that there's no remaining questions, and just to make sure that there's nothing that was missed that would affect the success of their project. And so after that, and as long as there's no red flags, they can go on with their approval process. So after we send the approval, they're set to do their installation, again, either doing the work themselves or working with like a landscape professional. And then finally, after they have completed their project, they submit an expense report to us and their receipts. And then next slide, please. The last step is we reimburse them. So we send them their rain check, and they are reimbursed for the work of putting in these features in the city. And next slide. So our website has some more of this information, including some information about eligible items and expenses. We also have an event calendar highlighting the various events that are coming up, including those educational requirements. And just general information of FAQs. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we are still everything is still very much a work in progress. We are in the final stages of getting everything sorted and launched. So hopefully you will hear much more from us in February and March, with hopefully the application launching at some point in March. And if anyone present here or viewing this video has any questions, they can reach out either to our general email, rainready@greenventure.ca, or to myself, jessica.gale@greenventure.ca. And also, hopefully, we'll have more information available on our social media accounts. And if people are feeling really keen, we have a rebate focused newsletter you can subscribe to. And I will end it there. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Really appreciate that presentation. Any questions for Jessica? Am I allowed to ask questions as the chair? Do I have to pass the chairs to Gwyneth, or am I allowed to?
Technically, yes.
Are there any questions from the committee members?
I've raised my hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, go take it away. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Hi, Jessica. This is more of just a comment. Is Rain, what's the question? Rain Ready, is that the new name for what it used to be when it was trademarked? Okay, then we've been emailing occasionally. I actually had.
Oh yeah, your name does seem familiar. Yes.
So everyone, I actually have a rain garden because of Green Venture, and we went through the process. My family has expanded. It's from a family that really, I have a spouse who really loved to cut grass, and now we have this. It's biodiversity expanding in our yard, and we have trees and all kinds of things now as a result of this. So it's a great program, and I really recommend anyone apply for this. My question just was, how do people find out if they have combined sewer, if they're on combined sewer, or anything like that?
Yeah, so this is something in the application process that we've gone back and forth a lot about whether on the application and this is like, I think we've come to a decision on this, but again, we keep getting different feedback. And so we originally were going to have it as an application question and have people, there is mapping that people can look up their address. But I was concerned when I started using, like, we didn't want to have to build something. So we were looking at existing mapping, I believe from the city, and I think Hamilton Conservation, I think, has some mapping for the impervious surface areas. And I was concerned that it would be kind of overwhelming to people to try to navigate like the layers. And so what we'll do, what I think we've landed on is that we will do that as a process with the application. So our staff will, use those platforms that are existing to use people's addresses to double check if they're in those areas. But generally, there is fairly good maps available. I think, I think the combined sewer map is available through the city, through their mapping platform, and Hamilton Conservation Authority has the impervious surface mapping. So I think it's something we're going to do on our end just to, but something maybe we'll share with applicants. So there's that awareness there.
Sorry, if I could just follow up on Sue's question, Jessica, I was just curious, so that means that this program will be available to all Hamilton residents, not just the ones who are in a particular area where they're more likely to face the flooding kind of issue. So it's open across the city of Hamilton for all residents. Is it only for the residential sector, or is it for others? Like, would it be a commercial sector as well be applicable, or only residential?
Only residential. So there is a number of credit programs that are under development that the city is managing, but but we are managing the component that is more public facing for residential properties with 6 or fewer units. And so, yeah, and to your earlier point, because when we were discussing it in focus group meetings, which some of the people on this call were present at those focus group meetings we had in October and November, because this funding was approved by all of the city councilors across all the wards in the city, it was deemed really important that everyone could access it. And in the end, like, everyone in the city is contributing to stormwater runoff in different ways. And so what we're hoping to do is that perhaps, say someone lives on a rural residential property, perhaps they have more green space to be absorbing some of the stormwater runoff. However, maybe they have a large vegetable garden that would benefit from having a rainwater collection system. And so that might be, for instance, like a better fit for them. But, in the end, even people who are not on the sewer system, there is water running off of their properties also, and there's water issues on their properties also. But there was deemed to be as the group decided that it was good to still have some priorities in place, but it is a little bit different than other programs, like say with the City of Ottawa, and also different than the program that we previously ran.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, go ahead, Frank.
I just got, you tell us,
Oh, you just have to turn your mic on.
okay. It's on. Can you hear me, Jessica? Yeah. It's basically for a residential home, single family home. What sort of funding typically, or I know you can't give me a number, but a range of how much money that is available to that homeowner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what was established when we did this proposal to the city and what was approved by City Council was to have 2 sort of funding tiers, $1,500 for smaller works, things like rain gardens, rainwater collection systems, bioswales, etc., and then $5,000 for larger works or more complex projects. So say a rain garden paired with a rainwater collection system paired with like a permeable pathway, or permeable driveways are also a popular and attractive thing for people to consider. And because they are more expensive to install, they would be considered a part of that higher tier. And I think I would have to double check. I think our website has kind of where things kind of align. And the application is currently asking people to self-identify what tier they are looking at based on the type of project they're hoping to install. And I should say, like, the funding obviously is only for eligible expenses. And so those are pretty thoroughly outlined, whether it is materials. Like I said, for instance, part of this program is we want to promote the use of native plants, but also anything from plants to hardscaping materials but also like professional fees and so on and so forth. So those things are outlined, and so it's only those amounts up to approved expenses up to those amounts. So those are caps.
Okay, Matthew, take it away.
Thanks, Jessica, for your presentation. I'm wondering if there's any ways in which you sort of measure the impact of this program, like amount of area that's being depaved or amount of gardens that are being planted. I'm curious.
Yeah, so we're looking at a few metrics to record. So one of the key things that people will be doing as a part of the application is a calculation to see how much stormwater is being diverted on a yearly basis. And so hopefully next fall we will have some of those numbers available in our report. So that is like the critical thing, and that is the piece that was the most critical for our the staff that we've been working with at the city, because in the end, this is a program that yes adds beauty, yes adds biodiversity, but in the end, its core purpose is to divert stormwater. And to have stormwater absorbed more on site. And so that is one of the critical pieces of information that we're going to teach people how to do that. And we'll have, calculation sheets and stuff like that. And in addition to that, we will of course keep track of the types of projects that are installed, the number of them. And I think we have some very basic metric criteria that we're looking at for this year, but is something that we're looking to continue to improve and expand upon. And so we have been working with some of the stormwater engineers at the city to discuss how we can do better reporting about this, and also something not a part of this program, but something that Green Venture is doing as their larger kind of green infrastructure work, is that we are working on doing monitoring at some of the sites that we've already installed. And so those are mainly the sites along Barton that are rain garden sites that have been installed over the last few years. But we're also hoping to use this monitoring equipment on some volunteer residential sites to get an understanding better of what's happening on these sort of micro LID sites, because there's a lot of data that is available for larger stormwater features, just on a larger commercial or industrial or municipal scale. But what is happening in these smaller features is something that needs some research. And so we are waiting to hear a bit more on the funding aspects of that, but we're working with some industry partners to get the appropriate equipment to find out more information about that. So this is the first year, and even though we've been doing it for a number of years now, this is the first year with this new program, and so that's where we're beginning.
That's great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
1 sec.
Also open to suggestions. We're always open to suggestions. If someone has a really great idea or something they're really passionate about having data on, we are always interested in working with people on this more.
And Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, sorry for coming late. I just had a question. I guess this is probably for staff. I remember looking into at one point if you're adding in a driveway, what the requirements were, and it looked like the discussion was, or the way it was written, it was focusing on hard surfacing, and I didn't see that you could make it permeable or gravel, for instance, or something like that. And I may have been misreading that, but if that's still the case, that would be a huge one to look at, because a lot of folks, add driveways, or if you're adding a secondary, like an accessory unit, and you need a driveway or want a driveway or what have you, like that would be potentially hundreds or thousands of new driveways that if the requirements are written in a certain way that are going to be hard surfaces, then you'd have to de-pave in the future where you could have just, done them the right way. Anyways, just if there's any information on that, thank you.
So go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, good point, Jeff. And, this is something I know before I was working at the city, it was an issue that we were looking at the community side, but we can definitely follow up because you're right. I mean, I think that's a really important piece to ensure that those kinds of restrictions don't still exist in this way as people are starting to pursue this program. So
not like a requirement, but just like part of the options that's
Make it
actually
an op-
called out as you can do it this way if you want to.
absolutely. Thanks for raising that.
And just following up on that point, I was wondering, like, is there some information that the committee could get on the rules associated with driveways in the city of Hamilton, both in the commercial sector, like the residential sector? Like, what are the rules associated with if you want to put a parking permit? What's the process you go through? What is the requirement in terms of permeable pavement? Like, how much are we losing from permeable to impermeable as a result of driveways? That would be something to kind of curious in terms of what's the policy that for the city of Hamilton, and then because that's like, it's nice to have these great programs, but if we're continually hemorrhaging additional losses in impermeable surfaces, then we're still not really getting ahead of the curve where we need to get to.
Yeah, again, great point. And I know we've got low impact development guidelines in place now, but I'll be honest, I haven't dug into the details. We can look at those and even arrange for staff who were responsible for the development and are now going to be implementing guidelines like that, just to get a sense of what you're raising here. Yeah, we can definitely come back with more information for the committee.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Juliana did forward to me some of the documents about the green standards, specifically around stormwater management. And I did, I had not seen them before. And so like I have up on my screen right now the presentation that WSP shared, and it did have some really good tables about what like the priorities were. And so I think the permeable driveway is also an issue we've run into. It's kind of it seems like it's been a bit of a gray zone that people continue to kind of operate in, but it would be really great to have clarity there. And so, Linda, maybe I will follow up with you and see if we can figure out the right doors to knock on so that we can have a clear message to give the public, because actually we've already received a lot of inquiries about putting in permeable driveways. So, and we finally are starting to connect to good, reputable industry professionals that create these papers.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica. I really appreciate the presentation and the update on the program.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, thank you for having me. As I said, please feel free to reach out to us with ideas, with questions. And I have to run because I have a little person coming home very soon. But thank you so much for having me tonight. And yeah, I'll see you around the city.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
So the next item on the agenda is just member resignation. Yep. Can you turn your mute on?
I just want to say, can you actually get someone to move it and second the whole section?
Yes, I have that note for the whole section, but we're not going to do it individually. Yeah.
Because I was going to say that ahead of Jessica's presentation, but I lost the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I have for all the items for information, we'll do at the end of this agenda item, we'll do the mover for the approval and the mover and the seconder, but I'm not going to do it for every individual one. Okay, and then Beatrice, if I can just ask you to kind of speak to the member resignation.
Yeah, so we have, through the chair, we have a member who's resigned, and that is Jennifer Matthews.
I thought it was Tran, because
that is there's two. And actually, I was just going according to the agenda, but there are actually two. And so
So
that's
it's Jessica?
Jennifer,
Oh, Jennifer.
yeah, Jennifer Matthews and Tran Nguyen.
Okay. Now, is there anything we need to do or just receive that for information, correct?
That's right. Thank you.
And then Office of Climate Change Initiatives, just the 2025 work plan.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So we had committed to all of you that we would come back at the start of this year and provide you with a bit of a whirlwind overview of what we have on our work plan for 2025. So I'm going to do that now. And as you all know, we have the whole team here today, Catherine virtually, Trevor, Beatrice, and I in the room. So as I walk through, I'm going to make a point of letting you know where there are major pieces of work being led by a certain staff member. I'll make sure that you know who that is. So next slide, please, Beatrice. So again, this is all of us and our contact information, just so that anyone who wants to reach out directly to connect with us on any of this work, you're encouraged to do so. Next slide. Just a brief recap as well. Just reminding all of you that we do within the office have priority focus areas, and you'll see these reflected in our work plan. Not to say that it exclusively focuses on these, but the bulk of our work does. And then we always like to acknowledge, of course, that we're not the only team within the city of Hamilton doing climate-related work. So finish today with just a reference to some of the other key initiatives happening at the city in other departments and divisions. So next slide, we're going to dive right in here. So we've got a number of items on our work plan that are really almost like collective responsibility. And the annual Climate Action Strategy Update Report to Council is one of those things. It goes to the General Issues Committee. You'll know from last year that we had been on a cycle of reporting in October, and that's been shifted. Council approved a shift of that reporting to June of each year. We requested that as staff because we felt that would be more timely, because we're always reporting on the year before. So just so you all know, we're now well into preparing for 2024 data and information collection. So there's been some organizing happening on our end and prepping internally for that. That also includes, because of course Hamilton's climate action strategy is community-wide, so we're preparing too around efforts to collect community climate action information, and we're expanding those efforts and always looking at ways to do that. So the other thing that I wanted to do tonight as we're walking through, we're going to highlight points in our work plan where we really see opportunity for advisory committee members to give us advice and direction, and this is one of those spots. So we're keen to hear from any of you your ideas around climate information data collection on the community side. If there are certain sectors or areas where you think we need to focus, and again, we're really looking at those actions in the mitigation and adaptation plans and trying to move the marker forward in seeing implementation on that side and tracking implementation. So we'd love to hear your input on that front if you have ideas to help us with that piece. We've got a big focus on community outreach and engagement. So we've got ongoing efforts to raise awareness about Hamilton's climate action strategy. And so we're out at community meetings, festivals, and events. And this year, we're really looking at how we can provide regular opportunities for people to learn about the strategy. So for instance, one idea is getting out to different library branches across the system. And we've got lots of support from Hamilton Public Library. They're keen to partner and provide us with ways to do that. And then just wanted to make you aware that as a staff team, we're involved ongoing in a bazillion different steering committees, working groups, research projects, and other initiatives, both internally and externally. We're all going through updating our lists. So if anybody on the committee is interested to see the complete lists of all of the different initiatives and committees and working groups that we're involved in, we can share those. I've just thrown a couple of examples here just to give you a sense of the kinds of things that we're involved in, but there's a lot, and we're doing our best to, sometimes there are too many, so we're doing our best to really prioritize the important ones that we feel we really need to be engaged in. So those three are really, whole team sort of efforts that we're all involved in some way. Yeah, next slide, Beatrice. Okay, so, and I've tried my best to kind of organize these in as logical a manner as possible. So there are a bunch here that are really about data information collecting and then carbon budget at the end of this. So we're looking at climate change SharePoint and dashboard, and we've been talking about a dashboard idea for a while, and I think, Trevor, fair to say I can put your name beside this one as kind of the lead staff person, at least on the SharePoint piece, really trying to pull this together. So this is really all about us and pursuing enhanced tools so that we can more effectively track and monitor and report on progress, both internally and externally. So this is helpful for us in terms of, increased internal support to other staff who are really going to need to come along on this journey with us in implementing initiatives. But it's also really about reporting out to the broader community on how things are going. So I think especially on that second piece, the community reporting, again, we're really looking for advice and direction from all of you. And I think fair to say, we've already been having some really good conversations with the technical and governance group around just monitoring and different kinds of report card structures that might work, so that we can in a more publicly accessible way report out to community on core indicators, for instance. So there's a piece there for sure where we're really appreciative of the support that's been provided so far by the committee and eager to see you all help us more on that. Of course, we do annual reporting on the community greenhouse gas inventory. So that involves collecting community GHG emissions data every year. And getting that all compiled and integrated into our annual update. Again, Trevor plays a key role in bringing all of that information together. And, this year, this idea of reporting on GHG and providing a bit of an analysis by sectors is something we're pursuing for this year. So you'll likely see another appendix to our annual update. And again, it's just, to provide more information presented in ways that are going to help, again, to be able to inform how are we doing, where are there, even sectors out in the community where maybe we should be celebrating wonderful action or we need to push more collectively for change. We also do annual reporting to the Global Carbon Disclosure Project, and this involves preparing and consolidating a lot of that detailed annual data and information that as a team we work to collect. And again, Trevor's our data guy. Trevor is the one who pulls that all together into that annual submission through the CDP. And any of you who are aware of this global reporting approach will know that cities are graded at the global level on their submissions. And I'm proud to say that we've been pretty consistently an A level city in what we're reporting and just based on that reporting where we rank in terms of our commitment to action. So that's another important piece. And then I've also included here our carbon budget and accounting framework. And again, this is like Trevor's slide. Trevor is the lead member of the team on this project. And we've provided you with information about this initiative already, but in 2025, there'll be continuing work on the carbon budget and accounting framework, and that'll include everything from customizing some carbon calculators for city staff to use moving forward, to looking at carbon credit and green procurement policies, auditing our community greenhouse gas emission inventory to make sure that, it's where it needs to be moving forward. So, lots of work on that front. Okay, next slide. All right, so obviously communications on the climate change file is really important. So Beatrice has been doing lots of work on a communications strategy for us. And of course, ongoing for us is that whole focus on content creation, developing, maintaining, implementing an editorial calendar. So this year we've been paying a lot of attention to how do we do a better job to make these kinds of activities more routine moving forward. And I think on the communications side, I know we're always open to any input that any of you have on what you think we should be sharing we're eager to hear climate good news stories, whether they're on the city side or anywhere in the community. So I think on the communications piece, but also in the next category with our website development there as well, we're eager to hear from all of you. We want to be able to tell those good news stories to inspire and mobilize community members to take climate action. And then, added to that as well on the website development, this has been a sort of an ongoing effort with Beatrice spearheading for the staff team to be figuring out how do we make the web-based resources more expansive? How do we provide more resources to community, to business, to industry, to anyone who wants to take climate action? How do we make sure that we're sharing the details of the work that we're doing to oversee and track implementation of Hamilton's climate action strategy? So lots happening there. And of course, I think, these are really important categories where you can all play a really helpful role in giving us input on how we can do that more effectively moving forward. I've included our Climate Change Advisory Committee here because that's, we've got Beatrice serving as staff liaison, and all of the rest of us on the team are here as resource staff to support you in your work. So that's an important piece of our work plan. We're also well on the way in pulling together the pieces to start to co-design a climate justice framework. Again, Beatrice is the lead staff person on this file. So there's work underway to partner with trusted community partners to start that work in engaging frontline community members so that we can get the information that we need to create the framework and to move on with pieces like a toolkit and policy development, and just generally, efforts to educate both internally and externally around the concept of climate justice. And for us, it's going to be looking at that combined with education around climate change and education around Hamilton's climate action strategy and why it's important. And linked to this as well, we're looking at a resource hub so that people can get information about climate justice and why it's so important. All right, next slide. There we go. Okay, and this one is Catherine's slide. So you'll all know that we have our Better Homes Hamilton home energy retrofit pilot that is underway. Yay! We're at that point where we have community members who have received a zero interest loan to be able to pursue improvements at their homes, and through Catherine. Catherine is the senior project manager who's managing this project. So she is now helping to coach homeowners who are participating in the pilot. We expect an update on progress with implementation to go to council in mid to late 2025. And there are also already next steps being explored around what comes after the pilot. What kind of a model do we need to adopt to scale up this effort? Because we know we need to retrofit existing buildings, residential and other, if we hope to reach net zero. So that's an important piece as well. And then, of course, we have our net zero carbon policy for new municipal facilities. And again, Catherine is managing that effort. We're working with an external consultant on research and policy development on that front. And we've engaged staff in the city's Office of Energy Initiatives as well. They're working alongside us on this piece. And there will be a recommendation report on this effort that goes to the General Issues Committee probably in Q3 of this year, but we'll definitely keep you all updated on that one. And this is going to be a really important piece for the municipality, be able to show leadership on new buildings and ensuring that we're building new buildings that are climate resilient and not climate obsolete. We also now have what we're calling an internal green infrastructure working group that Catherine has convened. This is really all about bringing together a cross-departmental group of staff And I know, and Catherine may want to speak to this, I know it's a pretty enthusiastic group of staff who are really excited about these conversations. And what's happening there is that the group is collectively assessing feasibility of pursuing a signature green infrastructure project somewhere in the city. And that's going to include doing work to leverage external funding opportunities. So at this point, we do have an allocation that happened in year 2023 from our climate change reserve that's being utilized to leverage external sources of funding as well. So we'll definitely keep you updated on that one. And this is really all about internally figuring out how do we make these projects work and how do we move towards normalizing these kinds of approaches. Next slide. Okay, and our team, as you know, administers the Climate Change Reserve, and we track progress of funded projects over time. And you'll all be aware that we are doing work to revise the application to focus on strategic priorities for 2025. So stay tuned. I'm going to be pushing some information out, probably right across working groups, so that if anyone is interested in providing us with input, you'll have an opportunity to do that. And we'll be sure to share with you more details around timelines for 2025 for both internal and any external funding allocations. And that's me, I guess, fair to say I'm the lead person on that piece. We also have, and this is in our work plan for this year, development and implementation of a neighborhood climate action small grants program. So our goal is ideally before 2025 is over, we'll be able to do a first offering of grants with our office administering and supporting them. The grants will be funded through the Climate Change Reserve, and the focus here is really on engaging and facilitating neighborhood-level climate mitigation and adaptation. So on this piece, for sure, I can tell you we're sitting in the Office of Climate Change Initiatives with, fully staffed. We would be a team of 5, so we do have one position currently vacant. Fingers crossed, soon to be filled, and once that project manager position will be the one that will have this piece as part of their core work plan. And again, this is really all about helping to build those relationships at the neighborhood level and to support community members in their ability to do everything from building neighborhood networks of caring to help in extreme weather events to taking action at the neighborhood level on mitigation and adaptation with some support from the municipality for that to happen. All right, last slide. Also on our work plan is what we're describing very generally as an internal energy transition roundtable. This is about, if you look at Hamilton's climate action strategy, there's reference to a next generation grid, for instance. So this is really all about coordinating staff internally to share insights, ensure Hamilton successfully transitions to low carbon resilient energy systems, but also that we get a grip on, where are their pinch points, where are their challenges, and how are we as a municipality ensuring that we're doing everything from weighing in on key provincial consultations like with the IESO regional planning to looking at and supporting innovative, creative solutions to more decentralized energy systems locally. So this is an interesting one, and we'll keep you updated as conversations start there. But this is more sort of an internal coordinating and making sure that we're collectively getting the municipality to where it needs to be on this important piece. Another one is Hamilton Region Decarbonization Hub. This one's important because we know industry is such a significant GHG contributor in Hamilton. So we've had a little bit of a rocky road on this piece. There had been efforts to try to secure FedDev, some federal funding for this initiative. That was unsuccessful. So just so you're all aware, we're regrouping internally and through our office and a team within the Economic Development Division, we're currently determining a pathway forward so that we can get this piece moving. So there has been a commitment from staff to report back to council in the first quarter of 2025 with at least the beginnings of a proposed pathway forward, but we'll be sure to share that with all of you as well. And then the last piece is, and this again came out of council direction in the fall of last year, we as staff have gone away, have started to, we've gotten the blessing and we've gone away and started to assess feasibility of accelerating Hamilton's net zero by 2050 target. So some analytical work has begun on that front. And again, we'll circle back to the advisory committee and give you updates as well prior to June so that you know where we're headed, and we'll be eager to hear your advice on that piece as well. All right, so I'm just going to, I guess before we go to any questions, just throw up the next slide, Beatrice. So this just you know, not a comprehensive list, but these are some of the big other pieces that are happening in other departments within the municipality. And when I look at that, I'm realizing I didn't include important pieces like the extreme heat and extreme cold response strategies and some of the programming there. But suffice it to say, there's lots going on beyond just the work that our office is overseeing or working to implement. So I think next slide just says questions, so we can stop there. And if anyone has questions, and feel free, you know, hopefully I've given you a good sense of who on the team is responsible, has core responsibilities for what. We're happy to answer any questions you have now. And then I'm going to say again, you know, please feel free, you know, outside of today's meeting as well, if anyone wants to follow up with any of us on any of these items, we're here and we're happy to share more details.
Thanks, Linda. I see Sue's hand up. Take it away, Sue.
I just wanted to say that I was cheering when I read the neighborhood climate action small grants program, and so it's more of a comment and a happy one, and just even hearing you talking about it makes me happy. So that's great. Thank you.
Any questions in the room, Lucia?
Just wondering about timelines for some of these things, just kind of understanding how the pieces fit together. At first, I had no idea what the organization scheme was, so thanks for kind of going through how they're sort of lumped mostly by staff. But like things like, you know, we've talked in the sort of technical and governance group with folks about developing metrics, but also wanting to have things like a climate justice framework in place before putting some of these things together and then assessing community grants. So I don't know if it's possible to get maybe a little bit more information about when you guys are planning to do certain aspects here, but it might help the working groups to figure out sort of when to, like if we see something listed here that we're like, oh yes, we really want to do some feedback, when would that be appropriate? So that would be helpful for us, I think.
Yeah, great point, Lucia. And we can definitely do that because with a lot of these core pieces, you know, on our end, we have work plans with more detailed timelines. So I think we could very easily, especially on some of these chunkier pieces, share with committee members those timelines so that you all know and you can start to see. And it is, I mean, I share your pain just in terms of, you know, trying to figure out how does this all align? Are we going to get key pieces in place when we need them? But I think at the most fundamental level, we can share detailed timelines with you for chunks like the climate justice framework, carbon budget and accounting, you know, some of these big pieces, and hopefully that'll help. Yeah.
If I'm not interrupting anyone else's questions, can I ask a little bit more about this Hamilton Region Decarbonization Hub? I read the report from December of last year that indicated that the funding moving forward had not been applied. Can you give our group maybe just a little quick summary of where this might go from here over the course of 2025?
I can try. It's going to be very high level, but the original vision, and you can go back and look, and I keep directing people to Appendix B of our update report because it has a whole listing of all the actions, but the actions, particularly in the mitigation plan, really speak to the vision for industry and that transformation to decarbonizing industry. So there are actions there that give you a good sense of, you know, what are the core elements of what we would want to be achieving through a decarbonization hub. So everything from, and I'm going to preface this by saying, you know, sitting as the municipality, we recognize we're not the regulator. So it's all about, you know, what leverage do we have? And I think an important piece is a convening piece. How do we bring industry and business together and start to create a space where conversations can happen, where synergies can be identified, where even things like, industry to industry, business to business support around climate action planning. So there are lots of things that I think can be achieved by a hub structure. I know when you look at the strategy, obviously there's a really important focus on decarbonization. That includes things like, figuring out pieces like low carbon energy alternatives. So there's been lots of talk about within the context of a hub around hydrogen, green hydrogen, for instance. How do we get there? There's a component piece around commercial fleets and decarbonization of commercial fleets, and how does that fit into a hub kind of structure? I think the other thing I would add, and I think this is another place where Climate Change Advisory Committee members may have some good input. You may have ideas around what you would envision a hub like this achieving or providing in the way of support for industry and business. So I guess at this point, probably the best I can say is we'll continue to come back as this takes, more of a solid form moving forward and share with you where things are going. But would love to hear from you. And I don't know, Trevor, I don't know if you want to add anything else in terms of the Decarb Hub and the original vision and some of what we're thinking about now.
Yeah, I think just in short, to build off what you mentioned, Linda, and specifically when you look at the Hamilton's Climate Action Strategy Appendix B, it highlights that the Hamilton Region decarbonization approach is not just an action within Hamilton's Climate Action Strategy. It's identified in the Economic Development Action Plan. It's identified in the Goods Movement Strategy. And there's a third one too. Anyways, it's very rooted in economic development. And I'd say at the very fundamental level, staff in the Office of Climate Change Initiatives and Economic Development really want to move this forward, and we're figuring out how best to do that.
Clean tech.
So, yeah.
Frank?
Am I on now?
Yeah, you're on.
Just to follow up, exactly the same question on this hub. It looks like you've read a report or a summary report. And I think I've seen something, but I haven't followed up. Trevor, can you provide us with what is on paper right now with respect to the hub, where it is and what's missing? I think that's something that we could add to. There's a new drill rig that's being developed in Canada for drilling under buildings, for instance, in parking garages. And there's also borehole thermal energy storage that would tie into the hub. So at a high level, we could probably provide some information on the technical feasibility. Master's doing a lot of work on that as well. So bring, the universities together with the industries that have the waste heat to store.
Through the chair, happy to work with Beatrice and to send any written correspondence. The most recent one too, and Linda, just looking this up to make sure, the most recent is a communications update to council that's publicly available on the council communications update on the most recent status. And that's as of December 16th, 2024. But yeah, Frank, I love where your head's at with that kind of different technology. And I actually was talking to the guy who invented the horizontal drilling approach for geothermal underneath parking lots at the Pivot Tech conference in last November. And I think it's those types of, Linda mentioned hydrogen, but the idea of this decarbonization approach is all forms of clean technology. So geothermal is definitely on the table for discussion as well.
So yeah, I'll follow up.
And Jeff?
Yeah, no, that's great. And through you, Chair, I guess two things quickly. One, regarding the hub, maybe if the funding isn't there, it can be thought of ways to use it as a partnership to promote successes, to promote things that are going on, and sort of as like a shared accountability mechanism, because there's a lot of initiatives that have kind of been announced and funded, industrial initiatives and whatnot, greening, that I don't really know where they're at. And I would kind of worry out loud here about some of them stalling out, especially we've got one election happening, another election happening soon. So it might be a good convening role for the city to say, hey, there's all this great stuff planned. Look at all the, reductions that this could mean from things like, not saying that any of this is going to stall out, but what ArcelorMittal Dofasco is doing, what Metrolinx would be doing with the LRT. So kind of looking at what that could mean in terms of a number of things for the city, but one of those, could be the sort of the climate metrics and sort of promoting some of that good stuff that's happening, and then using putting more of a spotlight on some of these initiatives where maybe people see the announcements and then, wait for a ribbon cutting when it happens or something, but trying to help with maintaining that enthusiasm, maintaining that information, and hopefully maintaining the commitment as well on some of those. I could see that being useful and not hopefully costing much.
Yeah, great point. And I think we do need to give profile to and celebrate the players that are heading in the directions that we know they need to go in. And I think, Jeff, as you were talking, it made me think I want to say this just in terms of a structure like this. And I've said this to people, lots of people, that over the years in Hamilton, we know how to bring community partners together and do effective roundtable processes. And part of that is also, you create a space where people can come together, share successes, but it also becomes a space where you support each other and you set expectations, right? So I think I appreciate the way you've described it, because I think that's really what we're aspiring to here, is how do we create that space that's supportive, but that also builds community and expectations, obligations, right, around how do we collectively work to move forward and achieve these outcomes that we know we need to achieve, because it's not going to be easy.
Because it doesn't mean that the money's coming from the city necessarily, but I think the community writ large has expectations.
Yeah.
And so there's an accountability piece there.
Yeah.
Being good corporate citizens and all of that good stuff. So just focusing on that in a supportive way, not like a stick kind of way, but more of a, this is great and we want to see this move forward kind of thing.
Exactly.
And then just following up on that, it might be worth it to touch base with Partners in Project Green or the ClimateWise initiative that's taking place in York Region as well, just to kind of get a little bit of a sense of their experiences on trying to play that facilitation role across a number of diverse different industrial and commercial businesses. I think there's some good learnings in terms of what can be done on the cheap, what can be done with a little bit of resources, and what can be done in terms of external funding opportunities to support that economic development facilitation across different businesses.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. We'll follow up on those options for sure.
And I can do introductions if you need some help. One question I had is that I noticed in the work plan there is a net zero strategy being developed for new builds, but there wasn't any mention about Hamilton, the city of Hamilton's process for its existing building stock and its net zero roadmap for that building stock. Is there any updates in terms of an existing buildings kind of framework or kind of costing study analysis for net zero?
So there is a pathway to net zero study that was completed by the city through the Office of Energy Initiatives, but we now need to see more implementation of that piece. So we can get you more details, but our team meets regularly with staff from the Office of Energy Initiatives, and so they've been updating us on some of the feasibility assessments that they're doing, looking at how can they start to move the marker forward.
So they did do a net zero kind of analysis and costing study in the life cycle of the assets. Is that correct? They already did that? Okay. All right, excellent. Be great to get some more information on that. Thanks.
We may even want to think about a staff presentation on that, on a piece like that from Office of Energy. We could certainly talk to them about that if there's interest.
I just had hopefully a quick one, Chair. I see that some other key corporate climate initiatives, and there's a lot there. I just thinking back, and apologies if I forget the group, sort of there was a director level or steering committee across the corporation that was sort of managing the rollout of the strategy or sort of was accountable for various parts. I'm just wondering sort of how the integration with your office and all of these other initiatives work? Is it through that sort of committee or steering group? Because I just see a lot of stuff here which could be very impactful. And I'm just want to make sure that sort of this expertise in your office, that these folks have the benefit of that as well. I know like you've got a lot to do anyways, but I'm just want to kind of better understand the coordination or how that all is working.
Yeah, so there is a climate change initiative steering committee. In fact, they're meeting this week, and so we do regularly check in, and a core part of their role is, working with us to ensure that the corporation is moving forward with implementation of its climate commitments. But how to describe the way it would connect back to that list? They definitely play an important role working with us to coordinate, everything from, those priority indicators that we rely on for the corporate actions and continuing to refine them, improve them, and add to them over time, to helping us to ensure that their teams are working with us to provide us with the information that we need to report out. So that's probably, I think, fair to say, the most direct link through that committee to that long list that you see there, because those strategies and initiatives that other divisions are implementing, they do have direct links. So I'll give you an example. We have an urban forest strategy, and it has a targeted goal of 40% canopy cover, equitably distributed. So when you look at the kind of data that we're collecting information on from the forestry division in preparation for our annual report, we're asking them for information like that. And we know, for instance, right now it's a very basic, hey guys, are you reaching the annual tree planting targets that you've committed to? So we're gathering and reporting that kind of information. But over time, as the urban forest strategy continues to be implemented, we know that we have an interest in getting more of the information that they're gathering. So they're refining their ability to measure canopy cover. They're looking at how they can overlay that kind of information with information around, neighborhoods that need more canopy cover. How do we get to that equity piece? That's data that we'll be gathering and ultimately reporting out in what we share as part of, tracking the implementation of Hamilton's climate action strategy. So I hope that gives you a sense. There are all those initiatives, but we're definitely continuing to plug information and understanding into our own tracking and reporting on progress with the climate action strategy. I hope that answers your question.
I'm just noticing the time, and I just want to make sure we have enough time for the working group updates. Just because, but if people have additional questions on the work plan, if they can note those or send them to an email to me, just so I can keep track of them for future agenda items, if you can send them to Beatrice and to myself and to Ian, that would be great. So if we could just move on to working group updates. Lucy, are you okay to do the technical and governance update?
Yes, I am. And I'm sure if I missed something, my wonderful co-chair, Matthew, will chime in. So our last meeting, actually there's updates since our last meeting, because we had our last meeting in December, and after that we had a meeting of the chairs, myself and Matthew, as well as Mary Luz, who's not here today, from the buildings working group, with city staff about the green development standards, which has been one of the main pieces that we've been working on. That meeting, I think all of us felt went really well. We were really encouraged and look forward to hearing back on the next steps. Part of what we were waiting to hear back was what the timeline was going to be, because the city consultant had expected the process to run into March, but the original council report back had said January, so there was a little bit of ambiguity on what that timeline was going to be. But certainly our groups are, I think, maybe a little bit ahead of where the consultant expected us to be in terms of the feedback that we had ready for that first session. So certainly I was really proud of the work that everybody put into that. The other items that the Technical and Governance Working Group have been working on have been around sustainability metrics and public dashboard reporting. That is going to be a big theme in the next couple months for us. as the city looks to develop this for public consumption. And we have quite a bit of expertise in our group, particularly Matthew leading the charge on looking at what other municipalities are doing, what different corporations do, looking at these pre-existing reporting structures and figuring out what elements are the most valuable to people who are looking at it as just general public members. What do they want to see? What do they want to know? And sort of pulling these two pieces together and giving you guys some advice on what we think the public would like to see in that reporting dashboard. And I think Jeff maybe spoke a little bit to that feeling of seeing announcements and maybe not seeing where projects really are, and trying to show some of that progress to people in a really transparent and tangible way. We also developed and finalized the internal governance structure for our group that we have available for all the other working groups if they would like it. So that will be widely disseminated, I'm sure. Let me see, is there anything else that I've missed? I think those were all the items that we have ongoing right now.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Lucia. How about nature-based solutions?
Thank you, Gabby. I'm going to do the report. Juliana is not feeling well today. She's co-chair of our working group. We had a small group meeting this past week, and there were a couple of things that came out of it that I want to highlight here. And one of them relates to one of our key objectives for our working group. And that is to advance existing nature-based solutions related work streams alongside City of Hamilton staff and community stakeholders. And that means we're interested in knowing what actions are being taken through various initiatives within the city and without, so that we can lend our support or advice as to how we can move along or facilitate these actions. And in order to do that, we need updates on some of these key initiatives that contribute to nature-based solutions. And we saw the list in the previous presentation of a number of other initiatives. We were particularly interested in the urban forest strategy, watershed and biodiversity action plans, and some of the other studies going on. And because these initiatives also intersect with the interests of the other working groups, we thought it would be helpful if these updates could be presented to the entire committee. So for example, that we have staff come and give us status reports. And also we're interested in hearing not just the status of things, but what are difficulties being encountered? Are there additional resources? What is the status of partnerships? Can we help with that? And are there structural or synergistic challenges and opportunities that would assist in reaching our nature-based solution goals, but also some of the others? So we've submitted our detailed report notes from our meeting to provide a little more clarity around this interest. But we wanted to put this on the table tonight, and that we would appreciate hearing from some of these initiatives in meetings in the future. And I suspect others would too. The second key point I want to mention, and Linda, you have just touched on this. We were discussing the nature-based solutions related targets or indicators that are on the table at the moment. And one being the ultimate target of 50,000 trees being planted per year. And our group would appreciate a little more information as to whether a roadmap has clearly been developed for reaching that. Do we have the data gathering mechanisms in place? One of the things we discussed was whether particularly the nonprofits engaged in tree planting have mechanisms for reporting in. And so there are a number of questions related to us. What are our targets going to be? And you've alluded to this canopy coverage target. That is something else that's emerging. But we'd appreciate to have more information and understanding on these targets and indicators so that we can tell if our nature-based solutions are effective. And that's it for us.
Thanks so much, Mary Ellen. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Also, so some mass raisers.
Yep. Take it away, Alex.
Oh, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much, Mary Ellen, and the whole group for those concerns. I mean, I'll just say I think you really hit some of the key, not frustrations, but the key moment where we're in is everyone's saying we need to ramp up this work. People are doing this work. Now it becomes very difficult to actually track this work, see where it's happening, measure the success, check in on it, because it's happening in so many places. That's the whole point of having a BAP coordinator come in. And so just saying there might be a synergy there and having a person coordinating the biodiversity action plan, but hopefully our work on nature-based solutions is broader than just the BAP. Happy, and I know I probably speak for Councillor Cassar as well, we're happy to make any connections or maybe send a quick email saying, here's some of the work going on at the Hamilton Conservation Authority, working with Ontario Nature to see what conservation areas can count towards the 30 by 30 targets. Other conservation authorities are doing this, like the RBG has a role to play in parts of this as well. So just to really prove, outside of even the city, the list keeps going. And I'll just echo that staying on top of it is a challenge in itself, let alone kind of providing input, seeing how to move it forward. So just really, really appreciate the work of the committee in trying to get a sense of what's everything's going. I'll be sure to look at some of the Google Docs and pieces there, and we'll be following up over email, but just wanted to say, I know our conservation authorities are also taking a lot on, and depending on the interest of the working group, there may be something there.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions for the Nature-Based Solutions Working Group? Oh, go ahead, Linda.
Just quickly, I'm wondering, because, you know, I know there's more on the list too, just in terms of initiatives that your working group is hoping to get more information on. And I wonder, I mean, as staff, we can go away and, you know, even get to work getting a presentation organized for the next advisory committee meeting, but maybe if, I don't know if you had, like, there are ones that you wanted to hear about sooner than later. If you wanted to share that with us, we can make sure that we organize accordingly. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything, buildings. I know Mary Lou's, thank you. Take it away. Oh, no? Okay, but I know that Mary Lou's couldn't make it. So is there someone else from buildings?
No, their primary work is.
Okay, so you gave the update already. Okay, perfect. Ian, any updates from transportation?
Nothing this month, but I hope next month we'll have a substantial update.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now I'll leave it to the community engagement and climate justice working groups just for updates. And then also we could probably talk about the desire to merge those ones as well. So if either one, if you want to, I don't know how you want it, you could just do a kind of joint update by all means.
Oh, I could start. Is that okay, Sue? Okay. So, yeah, we, the Climate Justice and Community Engagement had a joint meeting this last month on the 19th of January to look at the draft Climate Justice Framework and to provide feedback on that. And we have, submitted a document just sort of with our notes after we looked at the framework. And I think we were impressed with just a couple points. We were impressed with the level of community engagement that was seemed to come through in the report, which is we really like to see. We were, I think, needing more timelines. I think that was consistent throughout as well. We wondered, how long is this going to take? Is this a year? It's a lot of work. It's a big proposal, and we were unsure. We were hoping it would be soon, but we also recognize that it takes time to do this kind of work and this kind of engagement. And I think the other point was that we were also hoping that the equity deserving groups would be encouraged through compensation and support throughout the whole process when they are providing feedback on this and being involved in it. Sue, is there anything else? I don't. That's sort of what I have
Yeah,
generally.
I was just taking a look to see if there's anything else, but there were just some questions that we had, like about, you know, in the document about who the executive steering committee was, just questions like that, and who ensures that this is Indigenous led, a number of questions around that, and more things to do with city staff training and. But yeah, no, it's great. I think the timelines would have been a bit helpful because some of the things that were really exciting about it was the community or the engagement aspect of it. But when not knowing how long that was going to take, it almost felt like it was going to delay the policy piece that, you know, is necessary for the climate justice framework and policy. So yeah, so other than that, like, that was great. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions for the Community Engagement and Climate Justice Working Group? Can I then ask for a vote? Just we have to do a motion, I believe, right, Beatrice? Oh, go ahead.
Do you want to wrap up, like have a mover and seconder for the information items, because the motion is separate on the agenda.
Okay, so we
combine
do that.
the two,
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right, so we'll come back to that. Just okay, if that's okay, Sue and Shelley. All right. I think we've covered every working group update. So I think the next item on the agenda is. There's still some items on the working group update section that we just wanted to do, right? So I did want to do. Beatrice, can you pull up the resource hub just to kind of provide some input? So I know that there was mention across the committee about wanting to kind of share resources across the committee. And so I set up this hub with each of the working groups and their terms of reference in there. Some of the kind of like key documents in terms of the climate strategy for the city of Hamilton. But I wanted to gather some input in terms of other types of resource sharing that would be of value. So we definitely have like the climate plans, the report sharings. That is something that people are adding, like kind of, this was more general report sharings across the committee that people want to make. We are dependent, that there's not going to be any kind of moderator hunting down all of these resources and putting them into the hub. So it really is committee member driven, that if there are resources that you think is of value to the committee, I'm just asking that if you can have a blurb for that, and then we can kind of put that up in some and share that across the committee in that section. I was also kind of seeking, there's meeting notes where you can access all the past meeting notes, because it's a bit of a detective work to find it on the city's kind of hub for the sharing of the meeting notes. So we put a page together for the meeting notes. And then there's the terms of reference for each of the working groups that are there. That's what we have thus far as part of this. I am seeking input from committee members on other types of sharings that would be of value across the committee. And I'm just looking at, actually, when you were doing the work plan for 2025, I was looking through that and thinking, you know, it might make sense to have each of those kind of items and then staff reports that are related to those, so that there's like a one-stop shop for accessing all of the progress reports that are coming from staff to council and committees as part of that document, to kind of create it all in one place. So that's definitely something that I put on my to-do list on that one. But I'm seeking input from committee members on other types of value a resource hub could have for the committee. And keep in mind that if you don't have any input at this point in time, but anybody comes and it comes up to you at some future time, just send me an email. I'll be compiling that input, and then I'll come back to committee with the input that was shared. We don't have any hands up at this point, right? Okay, Sue, did you have your hand up? Sorry about that. Take it away.
I did. I didn't want to delay things, so it was one I could ask you after. And it was more about just how do we get the documents uploaded and all that for you, but that is an after question, I think.
Oh, yeah, no, I can share that as well. So there's two different ways we could do it. I can actually give login access to certain members of the committee if they are willing to do that kind of inputting on their own. And if that's not kind of doable, then just email it to me and I can get it up.
Perfect, that helps. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so we can, I think that covers the resource hub. I think that's it, right? In the agenda?
Well, you had, but I mean, we're at 7:40, but I do, through the chair, there was talk about looking at the work plan for the entire committee, just beginning to get some ideas of what people want to see.
Yeah, so the brainstorming on what the committee would like to see come out of all of this committee work in 2025. So that was one of the key questions that was kind of like hoping to gather intel from committee members in terms of their hopes and visions for what we need to achieve as a committee in 2025. Jim, take it away.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll have a more fulsome discussion as we get more of those questions answered about the OCCI work plan, because obviously we're supporting their work. But certainly I think people have heard loud and clear that the big themes are that we want to see the community facing outreach results from all of these different programs, the reporting of them, the implementation of them, the communication of them. Like, I think that's been a really solid theme of all of our discussion points. And I'm sure that will get put into a timeline as we get a timeline from staff.
Perfect, thank you. Any other input from committee members? And Ian, take it away.
Yeah, I'm agnostic about this, and I know things can get a bit complicated because we report to committee of council. But considering that we are talking about public engagement and the like, something that we might want to start thinking about now is some way for us as a committee to report back to the community at large, either through some sort of report or something like that near the end of 2025. We didn't really get a good opportunity to do that for 2024 because we were getting our bearings. But considering 2025 is kind of our first full year, that's something that I would like to throw out there for us to consider, and we can revisit maybe closer to midway through the year.
Perfect, thank you, Ian. Any other input? Keep in mind, this is not a one kick at the can. This is something that we will be kind of, so if you can kind of take this question and keep it in the back of your brain and let the creative juices kind of go about what is it that you would like to see this committee achieve in 2025, we will be allocating time on the next agenda as well to this question, just to kind of make sure that we're gathering that input from the committee. No other hands, right? No? All right. So then that kind of takes us through. We already did the member resignations together. So I was wondering if I can have a mover for the acceptance or receiving of these items that we just discussed. Thank you, Lucia. And a seconder? Thanks, Shelley. And do I need to do the favor, kind of like everybody approving, and then can I just ask if anybody opposes it, and then we assume that everybody kind of approve, like, is that how it works? Is that okay, or no? That's okay? Anyone opposed? Yeah, okay, so that item is carried. Okay. And next item on the agenda is the motion. So really what we just need to do, just to create a formality on this, is that we need to just kind of have a motion with the committee voting to approve the combining of the climate justice and community engagement working groups. And I can kind of speak that, you know, certainly there were conversations about the overlap between these two groups. And I think it's great that they're being put together. It makes a lot of sense. So do I just say the motion? The motion is to have the committee vote on combining the climate justice and community engagement working groups. So if I can ask to have, a mover? It's moved by Sue, seconded by Shelley. And then anyone opposed, we can just forget that, is anyone opposed to merging the climate justice and community engagement working groups? Nope. All right, so that item is carried. Okay, we don't have any motions or general information, so I think the next item on the agenda is just the adjournment of the meeting. And if I can have a mover to, thank you, Lucia, and a seconder, thank you, Ian. Okay. Anyone opposed to ending the meeting? And I don't think that ever happens. All right. Thank you very much. So that motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate all your time and effort. Hope you have a great day, a great month, and we'll see you in a month's time period. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Night.